Hello, students, and welcome to your English lesson. Today we shall be doing section 3, writing skill, and the fourth writing skill in your textbook, that is interview. Now, to understand how to write the questions for an interview, we must understand what is an interview. So, interviews can consist of various aspects like meeting of persons face to face, especially for a purpose of consultation. So, you go for an interview, maybe for some consultation, you want to get some help or advice related to your studies or your career or something like that. So, that also can be an interview. Another one is oral examination of candidates for employment or admissions, etc. So either you are looking for a job, when you are looking for a job, you apply for a job or a particular position in a particular office or in a company, and then they call you for an interview. So just to understand how much of the knowledge that is on paper, which you have shown, is really there in the candidate. So that time we have to face this interview, or when you want to take an admission in a particular college or school, and there as well you have to give an interview. Okay, so that is another aspect of an interview. Also, meeting or conversation between a journalist and a person whose views are sought for publication. So you have these journalists, they interview various people, politicians or social workers, etc., and they take an interview with them to get to know about various things or tasks that they do in their day-to-day life which help for the social welfare. So that is also an interview. Or similar meeting as a part of a radio or television program. So you have this, you sometimes kind of listen on radio or television that some eminent personalities are called over there on the particular famous TV channel or radio channel, and then they are interviewed, they are asked questions about their work, about their life, about their career, about how they have continued doing so many things for years for people's welfare. So all these things are asked in an interview, okay, to these people. Also, question answer session, for example, prime minister answering a press conference. So there we have the prime minister, and you have people in the press conference, and these people, they ask him several questions, and the prime minister or the person sitting there has to answer those questions. So that is also an interview. So interview can be conducted with a wide range of people at various areas in various places. And basically the main motive of having an interview is to know the person's views, his ideas, his concepts about various things that are related to his work. Okay. Now, when you take an interview or when you conduct an interview, there are few types of questions that you need to ask. One is the open-ended question, that is how and why, like a question wherein you will expect an answer with detailed explanation or detailed matter in it. Okay, so the person who is answering the question will give you a detailed answer for that particular question. So those questions are open-ended questions. Then there are closed-ended questions. Closed-ended questions are questions which expect answers in the form of yes or no. Okay, so you ask a question and the person will either give you the answer yes, or he will say no. So that is the end of the question. So it's closed-ended. Okay, it has no further explanation or no further information in the answer. Okay, so such kind of answers, questions are called closed questions. Okay, wherein you just expect the answer as yes or no. And there are hypothetical questions, that is imaginary questions, questions which come out of the person's experiences. So those kind of questions also can be included. Now, there are few do's and don'ts for interview questions. Like, what are the things that you need to do and what are the things you don't need to do when you're framing some questions for the interview? First, when you're framing questions for interview, you should have minimum 8 to 10 questions in your interview. Okay, 8 to 10 questions for the person. Also, when you're framing these questions, those questions should be necessary questions. Don't ask unnecessary questions or silly questions or questions which are not related to the topic or the situation which you are in. So when you're framing questions, see that all the questions that you asked are necessary questions, questions which are important, questions which are related to the person who is sitting opposite to you. Okay, also, there should be no repetition of questions. Okay, you do not have to repeat the question. If you're asking a particular question once, then you don't need to ask it again by framing it in some other way. Okay, so do not repeat your questions, and all the questions should be in proper sequence. Okay, see that you ask the questions in sequence, like there are introductory questions and there are some questions about their life, about their career, about their contribution. So all those should come in a proper sequence. Now, there are certain rules that you need to remember when you are asking or you're framing interview questions. First, you have to start your interview by giving a short introduction to the situation for which the interview is being conducted. So, if you are conducting an interview of a cricketer, then give that kind of introduction. If you're conducting an interview with a film star or a politician or an educationist or a social worker, whatever whoever the interview is being conducted, you have to give a small introduction about that person first, so that the audience knows the person comes from which field. Okay, then you begin with a cordial welcome. Okay, you welcome the guest because he's a well known personality, so you welcome him for taking his precious time, and he's being present in your meeting there, in your interview. So you give him a warm welcome. Then you start questioning, and it emerges from immediate context. So the person's whatever contribution, whatever his recent work has been, that kind of on the question should be asked on those contexts. Okay, so if recently there's a cricketer who has won a particular award, then you ask him questions regarding that event. Okay, so it should be with immediate context, not something which has happened in the past and nobody remembers about it. So when you're calling a person for an interview, then that definitely means that that person has done some kind of extraordinary work, and so you ask him questions about that particular work. Okay, then they should be asked in a natural course of things. So you just gradually ask one question after the other. Don't just jumble up the questions and ask them in inappropriate order. Okay, and do not use yes no questions. Okay, don't just use question where you say the person will say yes or no, then there's no point of having an interview. Okay, because people who are listening to the interview would be waiting for some kind of a detailed answer for the questions asked. And at the end, have a thanksgiving conclusion. So you conclude your interview with a thanksgiving by thanking the person for being present for the interview and giving his views on a particular topic. Okay, so you thank the person. So these are the things that you need to remember when you're framing the interview questions. Then there's this. I have given you a sample of general interview questionnaire, like what kind of questionnaire you can frame. Okay, this can be used according to the person that you're interviewing. So you can make changes accordingly. So questions like first, like introductory question, like how did you turn to this field? What challenges did you face in the early stage? What fascinated you most? What helped you to perform for to such an extent? Will you tell us any memorable event? What strategies have you adopted to succeed? How did you feel at the zenith of success? And what message would you like to share with us? So, these are some common questions and a particular order in which the questions are asked. So, these also you can make use of while you're framing questions for the interview. Now, when you are framing these questions for the interview, there are a few points that you all can remember. First is, like I told you, you have to introduce the guest. Then you can ask questions which are based on inspirations, like questions wherein you can ask them like what has inspired them to become a politician, what has inspired them to become a cricketer, what has inspired them to become a social worker. So such kind of questions can come after that. Then you can ask questions wherein you talk about the problems and struggles that they face. Like every person who is successful has also undergone or has also gone through the process of struggle. Okay, he has struggled somewhere or the other in his life in order to reach that particular place, okay, or that particular position. So you can ask questions wherein you can get to know how this person struggled or what kind of problems he faced while he was journeying on this path of success. Then you can also ask him questions about his family support, like was his family for this kind of decision that he made, or was it against it, and how did he kind of face them and their support, how was it, all of those things. So those questions also can be asked here. Then you can ask questions about their achievements, like what are the recent achievements that they have done, so ask about those. And then at the end you conclude by asking about their dreams, about their giving a message to the people who are listening to this interview, like what message. So if there's a youth social worker, then you ask him like what message would you like to give to our youth today, okay, who are striving to become successful. So those kind of questions. So just remember these points that you can keep in mind while framing the interview questions. Now, in your textbook, they have given you an exercise in the brainstorming section wherein they have asked you to place the given areas of questioning from the list in the appropriate columns. Okay, so they have given you certain points like future plans, inspiration, overcoming hurdles or struggle, who was their coach, mentor, guide, teacher, what message they would like to give youngsters, how was the family support, what alternate career choice did they have, or which was the first or maiden award or achievement or success that they received, or what was the setback that they got, or which was the turning point in their life, what was the success formula that they followed, what is the technique that they followed. So there are various aspects to the questions that you can ask in an interview. So they have given you this table. Okay, with this table it will be very clear for you to understand that there are particular sections in an interview. Okay, you can start an interview with an introduction, then comes the opening questions, then comes the questions in the main body, then come concluding questions, and at the end you sum up the interview. So with the help of these points you're going to take and you're going to fill in this particular table. You have to see which questions, like from this, which points will come in which section of the interview. Okay, like for example, future plans. Okay, so where should it come? It should come into concluding questions. Okay, so like that you have to segregate these points and put them into the various section of the interview. Okay, so try doing that, see if you're understanding, and once you understand, then this table is enough for you to refer to while you're preparing for your exam, as to how you can write the interview questions. Once you have a look at this question and you know that you should have questions which start with introduction, then you have the opening questions, you have the main body question, concluding question, and summing up. So which questions should be coming under opening questions? Like while opening your interview, what are the various things that you can ask about? Then in the main body, whatever you put here, you will understand that these are the things that you're going to ask in the main body of the question that you will prepare, interview question. And then whatever you have the concluding questions, those things will come here. Okay, so try filling this up with the help of these points and see if you are able to do. I have one more set of interview questions for you all here. Okay, that is in good morning, Mr. Khan, and thank you for your precious time. Now this is an interview regarding some famous personality in the film industry. Okay, so what kind of questions you can ask here is, how did you come to this field of cinema? So that is the introductory question. Okay, who motivated you to become an actor? How did you deal with the struggles you faced? Did you get support from your family? Will you tell us any memorable moment? What helps you to give your performance? What do you think about other actors of your industry? How do you feel at the zenith of success now? What strategies have you adopted to succeed? What message do you want to give to your fans? And then after asking these all questions, like there are somewhat 10 questions, then you conclude your interview by saying thanks for your precious time. Okay, so in this way you have to frame the interview questions quite simple. Only you should know the correct order in which you can put your questions. Okay, so please try doing this portion particularly in your brainstorming section and see if you are able to solve this. We will get up to the solution for this in the next video, or maybe I'll send you through on your WhatsApp group. But first you try to do it by yourself and see if you can get the questions right. Okay, so until then, thank you and have a nice day.